Something in that room was breathing that had no right to breathe. It wore the shape of a man. Aethelgard. Pale spires behind a dome of woven light that no army had ever breached. Not a fortress built for war, something older than that. The quartet had earned their way here. An ocean, a spider's nest, a mountain fortress, half a continent, 4 sovereigns dead between them. They had carried the only object that could open these gates, and it had worked. The city received them without ceremony. It moved around them the way deep water moves, with enormous weight just beneath the surface. Robed figures who registered their arrival and returned to their work. The dome overhead turning the sky into something almost sacred. The Weavers of Arcanum were the other half of what had held the Meridian together. The silent aberrant company was the sword. The Weavers were everything the sword could not be. The oldest institution of magical knowledge in the known world. A university that became a governing body. The place where the best were trained, and the best of those stayed to lead. 2 factions, 1 world, working in parallel since before the Armistice was forged. The quartet was taken to the chamber of the High Loom, the inner circle, the real authority. It did not look like power. It rarely does. The High Loom already knew most of it. They asked the right questions. The Sun Vault, the Journal, the Cabal, the name at the center of everything, and the quartet answered. The debriefing was short, deliberately short. People who know what they are looking for do not need long to confirm they have found it. The leader set down his notes. He said they had been watching. 4 sovereigns dead, the balance of the Meridian shifting each time one fell. The Weavers had felt it, not politically, physically, something underneath the world moving. He said they wanted to help, and that he would prove it immediately. The man who broke the world's last peace was not a ghost. He was not a legend, not a rumor, not a story that grew larger each time it was told. We have Moria. The quartet went still. And we have the seal. A pause. Not theatrical. The kind of pause that happens when the next sentence resists being said. Though perhaps, he said, have is the wrong word. In a way, we are imprisoned by him. Come. I want to show you something. The chamber was below the city. The walls were rune-covered floor to ceiling. Not decorative, functional. Written by people who understood precisely what they were trying to hold, and were not entirely confident it was enough. The air had weight. The particular weight of a room where something enormous has been unresolved for 53 years. He was in the center. Chains that caught the light wrong. Not iron. Something the Weavers had engineered specifically for this. Something it had taken 30 of their highest-ranking members to forge and another 30 to put in place. They ran from the walls to his wrists, his ankles, his chest, his throat. He was seated. He was still. He was wrong. The left half of him was a man. Dark robes. A face that had once commanded rooms. The kind of face that makes people believe they were already thinking what you were about to say. The right half was bone where flesh had been. Decay that had stopped progressing. Not advancing, not retreating. Fixed at some threshold that had no name in any discipline the Weavers practiced. The 2 halves did not clash. They coexisted. As if the border between the living and the dead had decided to run directly through him. He did not look up when they entered. The chains tightened. The power in that room was not coming from the walls. The leader spoke without preamble. They had hunted him, 6 years after the Armistice broke, 30 of the Weavers' highest-ranking members tracked Moria across the Meridian and brought him down. 30. Not because they wanted to make a point, because anything less had failed. He was captured, restrained, brought back to Aethelgard in chains he has worn for 47 years. They had tried to kill him 17 times. Blade, fire, arcane severance, void negation. Methods invented specifically to solve the problem of him. He healed from all of it. Not quickly, not cleanly, but he healed. They had attempted soul severance. There was nothing to take. His soul was absent, not the way a void is absent, but the way a room is absent after something has been removed. The shape of what had been there still visible in what remained. Whether it had been taken or given or lost in some act, the Weavers had never been able to reconstruct. They did not know. What they had concluded, he could not die. So the Weavers had built this room, forged these chains, written these runes, and they had been here with him ever since, not imprisoning him so much as being permanently burdened by him. 53 years of constant vigilance, of maintaining containment that could not be abandoned, of being responsible for a problem that had no solution. He had made himself their permanent obligation. He had done it without a fight. The leader finished. Moria had not moved. Lear stepped into the chamber. One step past the threshold, then another. The others stayed back. He walked a slow circuit around the figure in the chains, not looking at the face, looking at the edges, the precise boundary where living became not living, the line where the two halves of him met and held. He crouched once near the floor, stood, moved to the other side. Moria's head turned. Barely. Enough. Lear completed the circuit, stood back. He said he wanted to see the seal, 2 levels up. A different room entirely. The runes here were preservation, not containment. 7 fragments of the Armistice of ash laid out behind arcane glass on a stone table. The broken edges still sharp after 53 years, as if the breaking had been recent, as if time had decided not to touch this particular wound. Lyre moved along the table, fragment to fragment, unhurried. He did not touch the glass. He looked at each piece the way you look at something when you are not examining the object itself, but what the object is connected to. He stopped, stood still for a long moment, stepped back, looked at the leader of the High Loom. "Are you certain," he said, "that you are the best of our kind?" The leader waited. "You haven't noticed that Moria has tied his soul to the broken seal pieces. The archives are now closed.